Hi, thank you very much. I'm Chan Roberson. If I screw this up, then yes, I am Chris Robertson after all, but we'll see how it goes. I'm Chan Roberson, and here talking about modern mavericks, which I think is very appropriate considering today's date. April 19th, back in 1775, the very first shots of the American Revolution were fired. And I think that if you're going to be a maverick, you're going to want to be a catalyst for change. To be a maverick means that you're going to create a revolution in thought, in action, in the world. I mean, that's what I was taught when I went to film school. I was taught to innovate with my ideas, to challenge with my beliefs. I was taught to try and change the world one movie theater at a time, one television at a time. So I think the question is, in this day and age, how do we expose people to our revolution? So where do we go? Do we go to the television? Television makes sense because we were told that the revolution would be televised. But I think the television will not be revolutionized because all it does is turn on, turn off. All it can do is watch it. And I think in this day and age, everything we do is so interactive, everything we do requires interactivity, that it's not there, it's not right for us. Same thing too with television. Well, same thing too with films, that we would go to a theater and buy a ticket, but nowadays movie theaters are in our pockets, on our phones, thanks to phones going through revolutions, and on our laps, in tablets and laptops. So how do we expose people to our revolution when less and less people are using traditional methods of media to find content? Well, you can find a lot of revolutions and mavericks on YouTube. Every minute, I mean, literally every 60 seconds, about 4 days worth of stuff is uploaded to YouTube. The last month alone, about 6 billion hours worth of content was uploaded to consumed by people. 6 billion hours were watched. I mean, that's not the revolutionary thing, though. I think the revolutionary thing is that if you want to upload to YouTube, you just do it. There's no one to vet it. There isn't a producer that is reviewing your script or telling you that it needs to be shorter or better or you need to recast. It is really a democratic way for you to upload what you want to say unfiltered. I think that's the revolutionary thing going on. Because, man, if you're an artist, if you're a filmmaker and you're trying to get your film made and you've been working on a project for months or years and you got to take your grandiose idea and crush it into a couple of sentences for an elevator pitch to give to a producer who may or may not give you money to make your own movie I mean, that can be very compelling. I did it a lot when I was a co-owner for a company called Etc., and we made a lot of stuff where we tried to bridge the gap between traditional media and whatever is called new media, which is a weird concept. But so we pitched ideas, and we had this day where we were able to pitch an idea to a major TV studio and pitched it, and the producer said, you know, I like the idea a lot. I think it's great. I think it's really good, but we can't accept it because it's too smart for us. And I don't know how you're supposed to respond to something like that because, I mean, if you're on a date and your date looks at you and says, you know, you're a great guy. I like hanging out with you. I think you're really fun. But I can't go out with you because you're too smart for me. I mean, are you supposed to say that you can change and be dumb for them? I mean, you don't want to do that. I mean, you have your art. But I get it. If you're a producer, you're worrying about points and investment and money, and film is commerce. So we don't have to be naive about it. We understand it. And a producer is worrying about the triangle of production, which I think is really important for any filmmaker or any creator out there, and it could be for whether you're making films or making pencils. Good, fast, cheap, you get 2, you knock out 1. Sorry, you can't have all 3. So if you want something good and you want something fast, it's not going to be cheap. If you want something good and cheap, it's not going to be fast. If you want something fast and cheap, you get the picture. It's not going to be good. So you got to be creative with what you have. So on YouTube, who are the people that are being creative and working what they have and excelling? Well, we have this really cool thing where we have the rise of the internet celebrity, the celebrity. And a celebrity is somebody that you may have never heard of, but when you look at their YouTube page, they've got unrealistic amounts of views. I mean, unconceivable amounts of views. So does anyone know who this is by show of hands, out of curiosity? A couple people, not bad. This is Ryan Higa. Ryan Higa's YouTube channel has about 1.7 billion views to it. Is anyone familiar with this gentleman? Show of hands? A couple of more people? Okay, sounds good. Ray William Johnson. Ray William Johnson's channel has about 2.5 billion views to it. Anyone familiar with these two gentlemen? Okay, they're the reigning champions of YouTube. They run a channel called Smosh, and they have about 800 views. No, I'm kidding. They have 3 billion views to their channel. And this is billion with a B. I mean, this is immense. And we don't really talk about television having 3 billion views or about a film having 3 billion tickets sold. I mean, these are astronomical numbers. So how are these things achieved? Well, traditional methods aren't going to necessarily work. So a traditional method is, well, we have a film, and we throw money at it. You know, we give it a big budget. So when there's big budget for the film, you can have great special effects and great marketing. Or if it's television, you can throw a lot of money at it, and you can have really an A-list cast, or you can have good location. On YouTube, if you take a lot of money and throw it at the channel to have really high production values, will it generate more views? And the answer is not necessarily. And to understand that, we actually have to take a look at the field of robotics to understand why that may be the case. So in the field of robotics, we have a professor named Masahiro Mori. And Mori came up with the idea of something called the uncanny valley. So if we take a look at the axis, as we rise on the vertical is familiarity, and it increases, and to the right on the horizontal are things that get closer and closer to a healthy person. So, okay, great. Industrial robot, humanoid robot, stuffed animal, these things are familiar. We like them. We get joy from them. But then we have the cliff. That's where things become uncanny. And uncanny comes from the German word das Unheimlich, which is familiar but different, opposite of what is familiar. So what is becoming opposite of familiar? A corpse. A body is familiar, but a corpse, very different. We want nothing to do with a zombie. And then it rises with the idea of the prosthetic hand. So the uncanny valley is where we reject things that are similar but different. So on YouTube, you have someone that sets up their camera in their kitchen, or not their camera, they set up their phone in their kitchen, or their laptop in their kitchen, and they sit down and they tell a really powerful personal story, and they're not concerned about production design or sets, or they're not worried about three-point lighting of the camera. They're saying something that is a story that's similar and same. It's not different. You're connecting to it in a way that is powerful and unique, and that person is being honest, they're being courageous, and they're getting millions of views more than what they would do if they were on traditional television. And that's something really revolutionary. I used to think that as a kid, adults were smarter because they were taller, and they could go to a bookshelf and get more books, and they could read more, and that's what made them smarter. But nowadays on the internet, and this age of information, everything is the same height. No one's taller, everything's lateral. It's all the same. So if you're a giant corporation with billions of dollars, and you go on YouTube, you have the same resources as the guy in his kitchen. And guess who's getting more views? Guess who can innovate faster? I mean, these are things that are very, very revolutionary. So 2 years ago, I actually had the chance to work for YouTube, which was great. And I wanted to, when working for YouTube, I wanted to talk to producers and creators of content, not from top down, but as a fellow creator. So I was like, you know what? I want to create stuff as well. I want to create my own channel. And I wanted to come up with something that was going to be fun, but also within my means. I wanted production value, but not have it fall in the uncanny valley. I was working for YouTube. I was teaching at NYU. I had 2 full-time jobs. I had to work with the time that I wanted, not the time that I had, not the time that I wanted. And you know, I wanted it to be worthwhile, but also too, I had for a very long time, I was part of this great comedy troupe called Etc. And this is what the Etc. production company came out of. And it was great. We did it for 15 years, and it was very exciting, and we got to do political commentary and impressions and sketches and improv, and it was great. And well, it was so great, why did we stop? And I think about what Hugh Laurie said, Hugh Laurie from the show House. Hugh Laurie said that when you're a kid, the first impression you do is of your dad. And you go to your dad's closet and you get his big shirt, and you're a little kid, and you flop around the big shirt and you do a great impression of your dad. And then one day you put on a shirt and then it fits you. And then you kind of have to reevaluate where you're at. So, you know, when we started out, I think that's me. When I'm a sophomore at NYU, Jamil was a freshman. I think Quinn and Jean were still at Stuyvesant High School as seniors. And then the shirts started to fit us. We got old, we got married, we got kids. We all had daughters, which was kind of weird, but whatever, you know. And you know, the idea of we had all these things in place, but then we had to take time out to rehearse and mount a show. And how many people can you put into a theater? Maybe 100. You know, it just wasn't. It didn't have that kind of satisfaction that we could afford back when we were 18. So we had to reprioritize. So it's just me, it's just me making stuff now, and I wanted to create something that was, again, that was different than what I was doing before. I wanted to innovate, I wanted to challenge, do something fun. So I came up with this. I came up with all hail Retcon. And Retcon is retroactive continuity. We see it a lot in comics. We see it a lot in soap operas when a character dies, but then they decide, oh, the character really isn't dead, so the character actually was in a coma, or it was their brother, or it was a doppelganger. It's always like some weird thing. They change it after the fact. So I was going to come up with the daunting task in my channel of explaining fake 80s technology. I thought it was going to be a good idea. I was like, well, this is something I would want to watch, and it was in my wheelhouse, and I was going to explain why G.I. Joe's rifles shot laser beams but spat out shell casings at the same time. And I was going to explain why Inspector Gadget was able to store all those gadgets inside of him. And I reenacted the episode of Perfect Strangers where Balky and Cousin Larry had the Biffy Boppers. They didn't sing the song, so they all exploded. You have no idea what I'm talking about. That's fine. Don't worry about it. But it was really, my goal was to justify my childhood. My goal was to try and talk to people my age, mid-30s to late 30s, who never really grew up and wanted to really hold on to their Thundercats collection and really embrace their nerddom. And that was it. And I was very excited to do it. It was going to be great. This is me. I'm wearing a mirror mask, which is very unforgiving because you can't see out of it. It's hard to talk out of it. It's an homage to Cobra Commander. How Cobra Commander did it for all those years, I'll never know. When you breathe, just breathing in your own inhale, which is just the exhale is terrible. I'm also wearing as a costume, my dad's old shirt. That was pretty cool. So I was excited. I was really ready to innovate, and I had all these great concepts, and I was annotating, and I was making thumbnails, and I was collaborating. I was doing all the things that the YouTube playbook told me to do, and I got really terrible view counts. I got, does Acme have a return policy? 272 views. Build your own site, 155 views. I mean, that's pretty low. Maybe if you average everything out, I had like 300 views per episode, which I was trying to justify my childhood. I was getting my ass handed to me by cat videos. Not a good feeling on a regular basis. So what do? You regroup, you think about what the priorities are. But fortunately, I have a buddy at YouTube, and his name is Jake Roper. And he has a great channel called Vsauce 3. And Vsauce 3 is a science channel. It's fantastic. And in the science channel, he does some cool stuff, like he talks about the mechanics of what if Superman punched you? Like, what are the physics behind that? It's a great channel. And it's really great because if you take a look at the picture, he is getting the golden play button, which is what you get when your channel passes 1 million subscribers. Not views, but subscribers. And that's amazing. So I asked Jake, I said, clearly you're very talented and clearly you're really prolific in what you create. Where is the satisfaction in what you do? How do you know that you're doing a great job and that you feel really good with your accomplishments? And he said, you know what? I feel really good when I get this. And this is a photo of him of someone took in a classroom of Vsauce 3 playing to children. That someone was using one of his episodes as an educational tool. And that's when he said he felt really good, because his goal was to put the revolution into the classroom. That's where he wanted to have the battle. And that made a lot of sense to me, and that was really good, because success is something that you can achieve when you have a benchmark, when you can measure it. And we see that in traditional filmmaking. It's not about how well you do, it's about how close you get to your prediction. So with a traditional film like Star Trek Into Darkness, in its opening weekend made $85 million, and that's more money than you and I will ever see combined. But it wasn't considered a success because it was predicted to make $100 million. So okay, it's not about how well you do, and yeah, we could get millions and millions of views, but what are your goals? What are you trying to do? Where's the revolution going to take you? So okay, I went back to let me reevaluate those 300 views. So, all right, well, I mean, how many people are in a movie theater? Like 200 maybe a little bit more. So okay, so more people watch my episode than being in a movie theater. Okay, that's I can rationalize that. Or back when I was doing Etc. and we performed, and that was 100 people in a theater, so that was more. Okay, I could deal with that. But then I cracked open YouTube's analytics, which are very, very important, because what analytics do is that if you wanted to screen a movie and you wanted to get feedback from people, you'd have to give a poll out, or you have to interview people. But with YouTube, the analytics are there, and they're free, and they can tell you who your audience is and where they are and how old they are. So I took a look at where those people were from that were watching me, and they were in America and Canada, but they were also in the Czech Republic, and they were in the United Arab Emirates, and they were in Sweden. And so forget me trying to fill up a movie theater. I was making connections on a global scale. And then I got this. I got fan art. Somebody had photoshopped this of me. And then I got this. Somebody had was playing on their PlayStation and designed a character of me. And I think I'm wrestling Magneto. I lose terribly in this match. And then people were sending me their own questions about fake 80s technology. And it was great because I was connecting to people in a way that was revolutionary. It wasn't people saying, good job, and it wasn't saying, hey, Chris, answer this question. People were in character asking me about answering this question, and my fans became writers. My fans became producers. My fans became shapers of the world I was trying to create, the story I was trying to tell, and it had this great interactivity that I really felt like, oh, well, this is the goal. I wanted to connect to people on this way. So I think that maybe when we re-examine the initial question of how do we expose people to our revolution, I think we may have to re-examine the question and ask ourselves, well, how do we involve people in our revolution? Because I think the revolution is something that requires participation. So participating in the revolution means, like the example I gave before, that you are doing something where you are actively involved. And you can do that in YouTube where you have a call to action, and a call to action is where you tell people, how do you innovate? How do you take charge? How do you help out somebody? It could be something as simple as pressing the like button or subscribing or writing a comment below. But sometimes you being a watcher of the content really does shape what happens. But I get it, though. I work hard. I have 6 days. I work 6 days a week. I want to come home on a Saturday at 9 p.m. and I want HBO to tell me what to watch. You know, sometimes I get really tired. But if you really want to get involved in what people are saying and what they're doing, well, then I think that you got to be, in the audience, you have to be an active participant in the revolution. And sometimes being a participant is following what's going on. And something revolutionary with a storyteller on YouTube is that they're not necessarily a filmmaker. They're a storyteller. And you can have something, the maverick is a young kid who opens up their laptop, turns on the camera, and isn't making a movie. He films himself sitting down on his couch next to his mom and telling her that he's gay. So then now you watching as an audience, how do you continue that revolution? Well, maybe you're a young kid and you see this and you go, wait a minute, he can do it, so can I. And you're inspired. Or maybe you're a parent and you see the interaction, you go, well, wait a minute, I need to be more sensitive with my child. So this revolution that goes on requires you to really be dug in and commit to what you see and to support. So, you know, I don't know, with all the revolutions and technology and what goes on, it's really, really hard to predict what the technology is going to be. The revolution will be live streamed. The revolution will be injected into you. The revolution will be beamed into your eyeballs. But I can honestly say that regardless of all the technology that we have, I truly think that the future of storytelling will be a good story. So thank you very much for listening.